In this episode, I'm going to show you how to develop practices, workouts, and drills from start to finish that will ensure maximum efficiency so that you will be on your way in becoming a much better coach. If you're seeing me for the first time, I'm Coach Potito, and in my 20 plus years of coaching basketball in every single level, my passion is to turn you into impactful coaches, parents, players, and even fans so that in you and through you, everyone can experience the life-changing potential of the greatest game there is. Remember, throughout this video, send me your thoughts, your comments, and your questions through the comment boxes below, and I'll try to accommodate everything. Remember, I'm not here. This is a recording, so I can actually on the fly reply, answer your comments, your questions, and your thoughts as we watch the video together. So let's start. So when I start developing practices, I use these guidelines in my process, and I've detailed everything here so that hopefully it can help you. So here I can see the 5 items that I go through the process of developing practices, workouts, or drills. And I'm going to go in deeper into these items as we go along. So, first is a program master plan. This is where you put down everything and anything about your basketball, not anybody else's basketball, but yours. Now, how you want basketball to be played. Starts with brainstorming, then little by little, in an organized way, you just sort out the things that you've written down to what's important to the least. And second is the timeline. It's just really how much time do you really have to 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 execute and to accomplish everything that you've written down, that you prioritize in your program master plan. So it's really a very tedious exercise of figuring out how much time you have. And then breakdowns, the third item, you just have to figure out what to put in at certain time, at certain periods in your timeline. So it's just really scheduling of basketball stuff throughout the season. And fourth is the execution. And here you just have to work on doing the plan that you've installed, executing the plan, the schedule that you've come up with. Preparing and developing your plans are a very important part of the execution part as well. And lastly is the evaluation, wherein you have to be with honest heart and an honest eye, just really figure out what you've been doing well and you've been doing wrong, needs improvement, needs to get better, and what has to continue on every single practice, every single week, every single month, all the way to every season. So that is a process that you have to go through if you really want to get better as a coach and you really want to have better practices in the future. So let's start with program master plan. Three questions, three things you have to consider when you're working with your program master plan. Number one is your aspects of the whole basketball system that you want to be played, that you want basketball or how you want basketball to be played and by your team. Now, so this is where all the systems come in: offense, defense, transition, anything to do with the basketball team plays, really just plays, defensive and offensive plays, and everything that goes with it. And then once you've determined these things, now what aspect of basketball you want to focus on for throughout the season. So that's going to be a lot of aspects. Now you're going to figure out what skills need to go in to these aspects. I'm going to show you an example in a little bit. So, what skills need to supplement or complement the system that you want to run? So that is the aspect of your skills development. And once you've come up with your aspects of your basketball system for the whole year, for the whole season, and for your team, and then you've already determined, you've already pinpointed the skills that you need to work on for your team, for your players to execute the system that you want, then you just fill in as much as many details as you can, as you possibly can, in these aspects: basketball system and skills development. Here's an example. An example would be, here I've already prioritized number one for my system, for my team to play basketball, is transition offense. So that's the first, that's my priority. First thing that comes to the list, that goes into the list, is my transition offense, followed by transition defense, so on and so forth, until the 10th item, which is the time and score. This is where coaches work on the finer points of the game. X number of seconds left in the game, and the score is this and that. So how do you play that out so that you come on top at the end of the game? So these are the aspects of my basketball system. Now, looking at my priority as transition offense, then I could go down to the skills development and work on the skills needed for transition offense. But before I even do that, I just have to write down all the aspects that I need, or that I think is needed for skills development in general for my players. If I'm going to work with the conditioning, footwork, ball handling, these are the aspects, the groups of skills that I need my players to be working on. So these are the guidelines or the subgroups that I've come up with for the skills development. Then you just have to fill in as much details as you can in these aspects. No? I go back again to basketball system, transition offense. What can I put into transition offense? In skills development, what can I put in maybe on in the defensive rotations on the 12th item, defensive rotations? What can I put in there? Maybe I could put in a help and recover rotation, help the helper recover rotation, 3 against 2, 4 against 3 defensive rotation, and so on and so forth. The more details, the better. And here's a good example. For my basketball system, it's going to be, for my transition offense, I've pinpointed 2 against 1, 2-on-2, 3-on-2, 3-on-3, and you can see the list there. These are things that I can break, transition offense that I can break down into and work more of. So smaller, break your group, you break your aspects into smaller parts and work on them. And I've done that sa transition offense. And on the right side, I've broken down my half court defense. I need to work on defending versus drives. I need to work on defending versus ball screens, versus handoffs, versus ball at the post. So these are aspects of my basketball system that needs to be worked on. And because of that, I can also already see and pinpoint what particular skills I can work on in respect to these items. And then just to a step further, here I've filled in more details. So in terms of skills development, in conditioning, I have physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, and social. Then on the physical level, I can still break it down into smaller details like stamina, strength, SAQ, where is that speed, agility, and quickness. Then on the right side, individual defense, I can break it down to teaching my players first how to put up a good defensive stance, how to move laterally, slides. Then after that, I could work on now defending the ball, containing the ball. After that, recovery, or what we call also closeouts. And then my personal favorite, getting the charge. So these are details that you can put in under these aspects of skills development. If I'm going too fast, you can always go back and rewind this video. And again, please don't forget, put in your questions, your comments, your thoughts, insights in the comment section below. And I'm going to look forward. It's going to be my pleasure to answer each and every one of them. So, second is, after you pinpointed all the meat of your basketball, basketball is like putting up a very good recipe. And really, just the program master plan is just coming up with pinpointing the ingredients needed for this recipe. Now, when it comes to the timeline, it's just a matter of order. What do you put first? What ingredient do you put first? How much ingredients do you put first? Of how much ingredients do you need to put in at this point? When the So it's just more of when, how much time, rather, when to do, what you have to do. So that is working on your timeline. And guiding that would be guiding questions would be, how much time do you really have from day one, first time you meet your team, and all the way to the end of the season. So at least now you have that parameter from start to finish. And then you break it down more by with number two, how many practice sessions will you have within that time frame, within the start to finish time frame. So maybe something you have to consider is really the court availability. May it be for a school, or may it be for a club, community court, barangay court, rent court, I don't know. But you still have to determine how many days in that span, in that season, you're going to meet the team for practices. And then a step further would be, how much time do you actually have for each session? And this would vary from session to session, from practice to practice, but it still is a good practice for coaches to figure out in advance how much time he really has per session. Now that you have that, you go to number three, where you put in the meat, the ingredients, and the timing of everything. And this is the breakdowns. It's really number one, prioritize. As a coach, prioritize what system you want to go at first, to work on first. For me, it's my transition offense. What's going to be for you? Word of advice would be to don't put too much too soon. It's rather your team. I'd rather have your team, my team, be a master of one thing than just be spread out in 5 or 10 things, but not really excellent in any of those 5 to 10 things. See, so it's very, very advisable to have less. Okay, less is best, so to speak. Don't put too much too soon. Besides, you have the whole season to work on other things to catch up, so it's okay. So don't be alarmed if you only do some things, a few things for your team, with your team, than a lot of things. It's okay. You're just right on track. Then you have to plan and schedule your skills development program according to your prioritized system. For my example, again, I prioritize transition offense. So it makes sense that I work on full court individual skills first rather than half court individual skills, because that would serve my purpose in working with transition offense. So it will not make sense if you're a half court kind of coach, and then you're gonna work on full court drills, or and the other way around. Uh, if you value defense first, so it does not make sense that you work on offensive skills first. I hope you're getting the flow, my point here. And lastly, during the course of the season, may it be daily, weekly, monthly, or throughout the end, or even yearly, you need to continue to evaluate, respond what you've been doing, practices and games. Now, in terms of your system and your skills development plans, that's very important. You need to work on the evaluation process that your system, your team, your season has to go through, and that's very important. So they say feedback is the breakfast of champions. So bear that in mind. Now, my fourth item for guidelines is execution. And execution is really a 5 item piece for me. And I'm going to go at it one by one. First is game situation. Second is practice situation. Simulate actual game situation is third. And as you can see, plan, research, and go forth. And to round it up, play, point, perfect. It's not perfect. Play, point, perfect. The action, the act of perfecting. So I'm gonna go in depth with this and start with game situation. What it's just saying is game situation is, what game situations do you want your team to be better at? And that's very important, so that you know you'll be guided as to what to focus on first, and to take away distractions as you go along with your season. And that's very important. Now you know what game situations you want to work on, then you ask yourself also, how do you want your team to play in these kinds of situations? What kind of basketball? How do you want your players to respond in respect to the game situations that you just pinpointed? And thirdly, what particular teaching points do you want to emphasize so that you can fulfill number two? And what is number two? Yeah, how you want basketball to be played by your players. So, teaching points, the details, the nitty gritty, the small important details that will spell success. So that's very important. So that's game situation. Second would be practice situation. A lot of coaches, veterans, experienced, newbies, you name it, they've done this. Or actually, they have not done this. Okay? Practice situation. Ask yourself when you're working, planning your practices, you're planning your season. Question: how many coaches will be present in my practice? Let's say we're talking about tomorrow's practice. I'm sitting down right now planning it out. My first question should be not the practice itself, but how many coaches will be attending practice tomorrow helping the team? And the second would be how many players will be attending practice? It sounds simple, but a lot of coaches, they forget to think about these things. And then they go to practice the next day surprised about not having enough coaches or having too many coaches. And the same with the players, either not having enough players or having too many players. So planning ahead really is going to help you have great practices. Second thing that coaches mostly miss out is how much equipment is available for the practice and the situation of the court. Do you have the court, the whole court? Do you have the half court? Is the ring broken? You won't be able to use the court. Is somebody else going to use the court? Who's going to use the court next? How much time do you have with the court? So these are very simple but totally forgotten questions when you're working on your practices. And even though you've planned well and you prepared well, always remember number three: hoping for the best, but be prepared for the worst. So even though you've already already come up with a good practice plan, but still remember and tell yourself things might go wrong. So always have an emergency plan in your pocket. Doesn't have to be a great detailed plan, but at least something to work with in the event that something bad happens on practice day. I may be ready for a 10-player practice tomorrow, but I have in my mind, what if I have less players? What if I have more than 10 players? So it's in the back of my mind, it's in my pocket, so that tomorrow in practice, perfect situation, not so perfect situation, I'll be ready and I won't be caught surprised. And that's very important. When you're doing your practice plans, when you've reviewed your practice plans on the practice day itself, on the workout day itself, hoping for the best, but be prepared in your pockets, prepare something for the worst. Third is breaking down game situations into smaller parts, also known as breakdown drills. Why do you need to do this? Because you want to maximize two-player, three-player, four-player workouts. You don't want to continue to work five-man practices. Now, I mean, don't run drills na 5-0, 5-on-5 all the time. Okay, there are so much learning, so much perfection that will happen if you break down your drills and maximize two to three. Actually, my perfect number is two, three. It's either you work on two-man drills, three-man drills, a lot of time in your practices, that's going to yield the best results. And you do that by breaking down the game situation, the five-man game situation, figure out how to break it down, make it smaller so that you can only accommodate two to three players in that particular game situation or in that particular part of that particular game situation. It will be much, much better for your players and for yourself as you develop throughout the season. And then your teaching points. What are these teaching points? But more importantly, how do you present them? What words will you use? What actions? How do you say it? How will you present it? That's very much important. How you present your teaching points in every breakdown drills. And I'll go into this much deeper in a while. And lastly, be consistent because consistency produces confidence and trust. Confidence and trust from player to coach, and confidence and trust from yourself for yourself as a coach. And that's very important. A good example would be you keep teaching your players that going left is very important. But then on the next day, you keep changing your mind. Now, today it's going to the right. Tomorrow it's going to the left. Maybe you can do both, or maybe go middle. But because you keep changing your mind, especially in terms of your teaching points, your players will not trust you with what you're saying because they've lost confidence. Why? Because you keep changing your mind. They see that you as a coach don't even trust what you're saying because you keep changing it. So that's why it's very important to think about your teaching points, stay at it, be consistent. But also, you still have to be flexible enough, humble enough to correct if you need to correct or change some things. That is not a sign of weakness from for coaches. You still need to work on your teaching points and stay at it if it's the right thing, but also be ready to evaluate and be ready to change to respond if needed. But the more important thing here is to make sure your players will understand any move that you make. Number four would be to research, plan, research, and go. Figure out your why you're going to do it, what are you going to do about it, and why, rather, how you're going to go about it and how you're going to do it. Good example be for me, again, transition. I'm just going back to my transition offense just because that's my priority, my number one priority. So, why will how should I present it to the team that why is fast break my number one priority? So why? Then I've explained that to the team and to myself. What kind of drills, what kind of teaching tools will I use so that transition offense will be addressed? And how will I teach? How will I tell them the things that I need to tell them so that they can do what I want from them? That's very important. So, why you're going to do things, what are you going to do to build on these things, and how will you teach? How will they go about it? And then now that you figured these things out, now research, dig deeper into your what and how. So that involves a lot of um, trial and error, video watching, book reading, watching practices live, even games. So research is very important for coaches. Third is drills principles, and I highlighted it and put a mark on it. I'm going to dig deeper in that in a little while. Drills principles. Fourth, after you've made your plans and everything, foolproof your plan. What does that mean? Means even though you're confident enough with the plan that you've come up with, ask and look into your practices before you start it and see if there are any flaws. Or do not just accept that this is already perfect. No, actually, do the opposite. After you've made, thought of, prepared well, you made the perfect practice plan. Now ask yourself, why is this not perfect? What's wrong with it? And you try to figure it out. And if you do see some changes that to be made, good job. Now, if you don't see anything, even though you're telling yourself that I have to find what's wrong, and you don't see anything, then still a good job. So what you want to do is really just to foolproof it. And lastly, just go. Just go. Go with competence, confidence, and humility. So drills principles, as I just mentioned a while ago, drills principles, it's just about three items or three things. Number one is space and time. Number two, people and things. And lastly, your teaching methods. When you talk about space and time, it's really what drills. You have to think about this as you go and write it on paper, as you try to develop drills. What drills can you come up with given the space available and the time allotted? You need to maximize both. You need to maximize both. You cannot be having 20 players and you're squeezing them in one half court when you have the whole court to yourself. You can't have a drill run for 20 minutes when you have 20 minutes available for practice for that for this day, for that duration. So you have to maximize your time, your space, according to the plans sa practice master plan mo, or rather program master plan mo. You have to figure that out. People, space and time. And then second would be people and things. You you have to ask yourself, as you make your drills, as you make your practice plan, ask yourself, how can you ensure, and this is very important, coaches, how can you ensure that you minimize waiting time for the players in the drills? When I say waiting time, this is the time players are at the back of the line waiting for their turn. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not going to put anyone down, but I've always asked myself why a lot of coaches uh, have embraced this drill. This drill that's you have 15 players, may it be a warm up for practice, warm up for a game, or a drill itself, skills drill itself. But hear me out. This favorite drill of most coaches right now. You have 15 players, two lines behind the baseline, under the basket. Two lines. On elbow free throw, two lines. You have two balls, or you have three balls. First guy on the line, maybe on the right, running to the free throw elbow, and then turning to the other elbow, and then receiving a pass for a jump hook for any move. The passer on the baseline, after making the pass, goes around that elbow and to the other elbow to receive a pass, and so on and so forth. Can't you imagine how many players are waiting behind that line as two players are taking shots? That's too much. But I've seen a lot of pre-game warm-ups that they continue to do this. You know, pre-practice warm-ups, and even as a drill itself in practices. A lot of coaches have been doing this. And not that it's wrong. The drill itself is good, but what I'm concerned about is, why not take away half of the players? Maybe they're doing it on the other side of the court, or maybe they're doing something else. Why? Because 15 players for that drill is just too much. A lot of players are just waiting in line, waiting for their turn. So the best tool, stations work. I'll give you an example. Back in 2007, I think, 2007 or 2006, somewhere between those 2 years. Uh, I had the pleasure of having my FEU Juniors program to have three teams for the first time. So my team A, my team B, which composed mostly of second and first year high school kids, and then my team C, a breakthrough of epic proportions. So team C consists of first year to grade 6 students usually, just to accommodate whoever are interested to play for FEU even without scholarship. And also because we're not really strong in terms of recruitment at that time, because we were just starting out sa UAP juniors scene. So that's why yung recruitment namin was a bit low. So for us to compensate, we just have to pull in as many students in school, in the campus, to be part of the program, and we're going to develop them. In one practice session, in one day, it could not be helped. No, but the three teams arrived in the court at the same time. Three teams, 15 players each, total 47 players. 45 players rather. 45 players in one full court, two baskets on each baseline, and two shooting baskets on the side. We had six basketballs. 45 players, six basketballs, four baskets. And that's what we had. So I did what we normally did. We did I did actually, wala akong coach. I was the only coach there. And that's the problem. I was the only coach at that time with 45 players. But guess what? I divided those 45 players into 5 to 6 players per group, and each group was moving around doing something. Four groups on those baskets, and then I think two to three more groups, one in the center court, then two other groups on the other side of the side baskets, no, facing the wall. So everybody was doing something. There was actually practically no waiting time, no waiting in line time for all 45 players. uh, and that went on for an hour. So that's what I need you guys to be working on, coaches. Be creative. Sit down, be creative, and ask, how can you minimize waiting time? How can you maximize venue? How can you maximize your time? Those are very important questions. And thirdly, your teaching methods. How can you tell yourself, coaches, if you've taught well today? And here are some guide questions for me. Executable. Were the players able to do what as instructed? Because if they had a hard time understanding your teaching, your instructions, then they won't be able to do it. So that's one key question to ask. Did your players were your players able to do what as was instructed? No? Were they able to understand what you wanted them to do? Okay, that's executable. Second would be transferable. Are your players able to teach what you just taught them to other players, to other people around? I think that's a second level of teaching, a second level of understanding for the players as well. Because my dad told me that one way to find out if you really learned your lesson is you're able to teach it to others. But the other part of it is from the teacher or from the coach. The coach, you can say that the coach did a good job of teaching or explaining things, because after the coach taught the players these drills, taught the players these teaching points, these players are able to transfer that knowledge to other people. So try to imagine that. So transferability of the knowledge you've given your players. Can the players teach it well to others? That's transferable and memorable. Did the players embrace the importance of what you were teaching? And that's very important, because if they do not understand or embrace the importance of what you were teaching, they're just following orders. They're just like zombies following you, and not players with passion who understood why you are teaching that. So, two different things. For execution, we go back. Fifth is play, point, and perfect. Okay, play. Now you've done drills to equip them with their skills. The second level of drills that you have to put your players into is are competitive drills. These competitive drills are from game situations that you've just broken down. Why is this important? Competitive drills bring out their natural instinct. So it's going to be hard for them to instantly execute what you've taught them. So that is where mental toughness will be developed, because when the going gets tough, the tough gets going. So it's so easy to for players to execute whatever you want to you or whatever you want them to do, because it's just a drill. But when you put them in a competitive drill, then it's going to be harder for them to execute what you want them to do. But that will develop their mental toughness, which will be very helpful in the long run in the course of your season. So don't just put them into drills. After you put them into drills, you have to put them into competitive drills, so that and then these competitive drills should be part of your game situations. Second would be, as they going to these competitive drills, you still have, as a coach, you still have to work on your corrections and reminders to your players. Now, question would be to stop the whole practice, or just to talk to them on the side and let the practice continue to flow. Because there are times where you need to stop practice so that everybody can hear what you're going to say. And sometimes you don't need to stop practice and just need to talk to some players on the sides as they wait for their turn. So to stop or not to stop. And that's part of good coaching. Third would be to perfect. So be persistent in guiding the players again and again. Repeat. So it's really just play and point. Play and point. Play and point. Just repeat. Play, point, repeat. Play, point, repeat. Continue to repeat so that you will be able to help your players perfect the execution of your basketball. I hope you are having fun and finding value in what we've been talking about today in this episode. And as promised, I'm going to share with you my a process that we can an example of a process that I go through when I'm coming up with drills and practices. So I'm going to share this to you right now. Okay. Now, how do I work fast break into the process? So, first question, it would be for me to how do I want my fast break to be played? How do I want my team to play fast break? And my answer to that is to be aggressive and smart. So, aggressive and smart will already be the guiding principles of whatever we want to do when we do fast breaks in our drills and practices. Now, what would be the teaching points for me when my players run the fast break? It's going to be LSS, lane spots and spacing. That's very important. Where they run, how far apart they are to each other when they run the fast break. Second would be to explode on the fast break all the time. Be as much Put as much details as you can in your teaching points. So I just did not say explode on the fast break. No, all the time. So they have that mindset of running all the time. And third would be for me, looking to score but ready to pass. That there's a side note, no overpassing. So these are things that I go through before I even run or before I even draw up practices and drills. Now just the hows and the whys. And then I go and again here's the process of people and equipment, people and things. How many coaches? Maybe for tomorrow's practice, I'll be the only one attending practice. How many players will be showing up tomorrow's practice? 6 out of 15. Okay, okay. For some reason or another, they won't make it. They won't all make it tomorrow. Just 6 out of 15. How much court space do I have? Half court. Why? Zumba. The other half court is going to be used by the Zumba group. Okay, that's the situation that we will be in. And how much time do we have? For some reason, the person who was in charge of reserving and scheduling the court for my team, okay, made an error. Okay? And for that error, I only have 10 minutes tomorrow on the court, half court. I only have 10 minutes for tomorrow sa half court because for some reason the Arnis Club rented the court and the guy in charge of reserving the court got it mixed up. Okay, how many balls do I have? One. I only have one basketball, 10 minutes, half court, six players, one coach. So that is the situation that I'm going to plan for going into tomorrow's practice. So this is the process of how I go about writing up drills, practices. So since my priority is fast break, what will I teach today? I'm going to tackle two-man fast break principles alone. Why is that? Why only the two-man fast break for 10 minutes? Because that's it. I only have six players, 10 minutes, fast break, 10 minutes, and then fast break is my priority. So it's okay that I work on my fast break. But why am I going to work on a two-man fast break principles? Because I don't have all the players that I need to run three, four-man fast breaks, and I only have 10 minutes. So there's only maybe one item that I can work on for 10 minutes. But that one item, the two-man fast break, I'm going to break down into several items that I can do for 10 minutes. And here it is. So how will I execute the fast break? Here, just notice how I use the words, what words I use. Okay, that I think and I believe helps players understand easier, understand quicker when I teach. And I always do this, and I'm very conscious about this. So how do I want my fast break to be executed? And here I can tell you, I'm going to tell the players to explode like a bullet that goes bang. Ganun kasimple sa akin yon. No, explode like a bullet that goes bang. Why is this very important for me? I can always tell the players to sprint fast on the fast break. But when you say explode, number one, and number two, like a bullet that goes bang, di ba? A bullet does not go, a bullet does not go bang, right? A bullet goes bang. And that, my friends, help players visualize what they're supposed to do. In the levels of teaching, of learning, and of memory, okay, listening listening is just a small part of learning. Okay, seeing is bigger. And then, so that's why it's very important for me to use words, and how I use these words to convey a picture. And that's very important. Maybe that can help you as well. When you use words, and how you use these words can convey a picture in terms of as to what you are teaching them, then it becomes clearer, it becomes more understandable for the players. Try that once in a while. Like here, explode like a bullet that goes bang. Compare that to run fast, be quick sa fast break. Which would be more effective for the players? Number two, I want the fast break. I want to attack the fast break with the forward pass like Jason Kidd, or push the ball like Russell Westbrook. Isn't that much, much better than telling your players, oh, forward pass if there's someone open, or else you can dribble the ball fast? I get players get a kick when I tell this to them, especially Russell, push the ball like Russell Westbrook. Talagang tantantini sila. They know what to do. And then when I put in the forward pass like Jason Kidd, they exactly know what I'm talking about. Okay, and then lastly, I want them to score hard and only look for the pass if they're going to be block either their drive or their shot. So that gives them again a clearer picture of what I want them to do. It's all about giving them clearer pictures. I hope you're having fun so far. Okay, so I redo my research on what kind of two-man drills I can come up with. I can watch and then make my own given those ideas that I see, or I can actually use what I see, use what I research on. Why? Just remember, you can copy, but always put it in context. Copy things that make sense to you. Copy things, use things that others do, others use, but remember that it has to fit your basketball. So always put that in context. That's very important. So plan, create, diagram your drills, but not just the drills. Coaches, hello. Not just the drills, also diagram, also plan for the rotations in those drills. And that's very important. You go into practice teaching them not just the drill itself, but the rotation. Where does player one go to next after he makes the layup? After your turn in the drill, where do you line up? Very, very important. It keeps you organized. And when you're organized, when the drill is organized, then the practice, the drill is much, much quicker. Okay? Thus, it's going to be effective because you maximize the time given to you. And foolproof your plan by rehearsing. You practice what you're going to say. You put it on a coaching board, you draw everything from the drill to the rotation if there's something wrong. And then you practice your speech, you practice your teaching points, how you're going to deliver. Why is that important? Newscaster monologue or a Broadway production? Which will get more views? Which will be loved by the viewers? Newscaster monologue or Broadway production? And coaches, I'm not kidding. You rehearse before you face your team in practice, so that your players will instantly know that they mean a lot to you because you rehearsed, you prepared well for them. That's very important. So, with those in mind, these are the drills that I came up with. So, for a minute and 20 seconds, 1 minute and 20 seconds, I actually have three sets of 2-on-0 drills, 2 versus 0 drills. So walang kalaban to. And it will just tackle certain skills or certain finishes, certain moves that I want them to use when they play a two-man fast break. So right now, it's just 2 against none, 2 against 0. So wala pa talaga tong competition. So I just want them to work on their straight dribble, strong layup finish. No? And the drill looks like this. Two lines at the half line, and then both go at the same time with just one player with one ball. They go straight for a layup. The second set would be go strong for a layup. At the last minute, you drop it off to your partner. And the third would be a strong dribble, fake pass to your partners, and then finish strong. So as you do that drill, the rotation would look like this. The guy with the ball on the maybe on the right, after he makes the move, they just line up, going back to the line in opposite directions. So they just continue that with one ball, with just one ball, with just one ball. To make it nicer, the guy who does the player that does who does not take the shot should get the rebound and quickly outlet it to the half line. So they practice also the outlet pass. Make sense? So those three, 1 minute 20, 1 minute 20, and 1 minute 20. Why is this important? This 2 on O drill. Because it equips players. Okay, these drills will equip players with things that I want them to use when they get into the game. Okay? You don't put them in a battle without any ammunition. You don't give them a gun without any bullets. So, you don't put them in a fast break situation not knowing what they will do or not equipping them with things that they can use. So, after these three drills, I'm going to my next three drills. Again, 1 minute and 20 each again. Now, this time, if you can see, may competition na. There's competition. And I'm going to show the diagram in a little while. So first would be a 2 against 1 fast break drill with an outlet pass at half court. Remember, I only have the half court. And while we're practicing, there is Zumba music at the other side. And then another 1 minute and 20 for a 2-on-1 fast break plus one more defender as a trailer. 2-on-1 plus one touch baseline drill. And I think you know this drill already. And my last drill, 1 minute and 20 again, would be the 2-on-2 baseline drill. And these three drills are important after my 2 against 0 drills because these drills will give them the opportunity to apply the three drills that went before these three drills, that came before these three drills. And also for me as a coach, an opportunity to correct, to guide, to remind them of things that they can do during this 2 against 1, 2 against 2 drills. So first, you give them ammunition dun sa 2 against 0 drills, and then you put them in a battle, in a competition where they can use any of the things that you taught them. Okay, and don't be too strict in teaching them what they can use. Okay, what do I mean? Sometimes you teach them three things. Then on competition time, on competition drills, they do certain things outside the three things you taught them. That's okay because they're also learning from the experience that they're going through. No, so experiential learning. Aside from the three things you did, they can also use whatever comes out throughout that competition, and then you just have to put it in context when you see that. No, again, this is not against being consistent. It's just that you are also being flexible because you know that you don't treat them as robots. You can just equip them as many things with many things as you can. But at the end of the day, it really depends on the situation and the reaction of your players. So with those six drills, and I'm going to show you the diagrams, but with those six drills, it was just 8 minutes practice session. No, 1 minute and 20 times 6 is 8 minutes. I have 10 minutes. So where does the 2 extra minutes go to? I allotted that for my instructions when I talk to the team. I only have 2 minutes for that. So you cannot use whole 10 minutes because you still also need to talk to them, to explain drills, to correct some, but not all. So 2 minutes is enough. So I use my 10 minutes very well. No? Now, coach, how can my team learn in 8 minutes? Well, you can't. You don't learn anything in 8 minutes. But if you use 8 minutes today, you use 8 minutes tomorrow, 8 minutes the day after, and so on and so forth, every little step brings you to your goal eventually. It's not about what you can do now. Again, it's being consistent. It's what you can do to a over a period of time. And that's very important. So every little step has to bring you to your goal eventually. So as promised, here are the three competitive drills sa 2-on-1. I'll start with the 2-on-1 half court with outlet drill. Okay, here it is. Okay. So, starts with the number one player with the ball. Now, that's why he's aqua blue line because he has the ball dribbling. Yung partner niya, two, black line. And the middle guy is the defender. Now, look at the rotation. Just don't look at the 2-on-1. Look at the rotation. Three gets the rebound. He outlets it to the next guy. And the defender runs opposite. And the other offensive player, the number two, kung saan man yung line ng number two, ang rotation niya is going to the other side, and the guy, number one, who has the ball, ends up playing defense sa next round. So that is the rotation that I'm talking about. And then the next group comes in, and they attack the 2-on-1 fast break. And look, four has the ball. He will eventually end up as the defender, and the defender will eventually need to pass the ball to two for an outlet and run opposite. And then the other offensive player runs opposite as well. So that's what I keep telling you about rotation. You have to plan out for the rotation. It's very important. It keeps everything going well and also gives your players more confidence because it's organized. Okay, so this is your 2-on-1 fast break at half court with outlet. If you see here, you're not just working on your 2-on-1 fast break, you're also working on your outlet pass. But if you notice, after making that outlet pass, you also work on what? Running the lanes. As they run going to the line sa half court, they're actually practicing running the lanes wide. I hope you saw that. Okay. My next drill is the 2-on-1 plus 1 touch baseline drill. So here is 2 against 1, but there's a trailing defender. So it adds more challenge for the offense. Wait. Oh, sorry. Wrong number. Here it is. Okay. Okay. So I've lined up two players sa elbow, 1 and 2. They're going to play defense. And then two guys at the baseline. And two passes the ball to the baseline guy who's going to attack. And that passer touches baseline and has to catch up playing defense. No? So one runs first, and now he's all alone, 2 against 1, as player number 2 touches the half line to go back as a trailing defense. So that's the drill, 2 against 1 plus 1. So another aspect of your two-man fast break. But again, work on the rotation of the drill. Rotation of the drill, you can see here, just figure it out as you watch the diagram. Now we go to the next group, still the same thing. 4 passes to the baseline attackers and then touches baseline. As offense, 5 and 4. No, 5 and 3. Oh, I have 6 players, 5 and 6, right? Ayun. So you're going to attack 2 against 1 plus 1 defender. So that is my 2-on-1 plus 1. The next drill, is the 2-on-2. So basically, it's same as the 2-on-1 plus 1, but instead of touching baseline, they quickly run to the half line. So it's the same thing, but instead of player 2 touching the baseline, quickly runs to the half line to play 2-on-2, and still the same rotation. Okay, so what you've just witnessed are drills that you can do to perfect or to introduce 2 against 1 or two-man fast break principles done in 8 minutes with competition already. And these are game situation drills. They're not just drills for the sake of drilling. These are drills that really happen in game situations. And that is very important. So, as my dad used to say, if you research, planned, and rehearsed for practice, then you don't need to be confident. You don't need to be competent because it automatically goes into you because you've done your work. You've done your part. Therefore, automatically, you will be competent and you will be confident. Humility, that's up to you. That's up to your character. But here's one thing I want to impart as we end almost at the end. Lack of preparation plus false confidence equals foolish arrogance. What do I mean? Most coaches, they think that they can get by not preparing well, not researching well, not rehearsing well for the practice that will come. But they just have to show a strong front and be confident uh, any which way. Now, even if they have not prepared, they will still act confident. They will convince themselves that they know everything. You might fool players sometimes, but you cannot fool players all the time. And when that happens, you're going to be a foolish, arrogant coach. And that's not what we want from each other. We do not want to be foolish, arrogant coaches because our players deserve better. So, coaches, please do prepare well. And you don't even have to look for your confidence because if you prepare well, confidence will follow, even if you don't want to. Okay, that's one thing I really want you guys to bring home. Okay, and lastly, evaluation. At the end of the day, at the end of your practice, at the end of every drill, at the end of every week, at the end of every month, every year, were your objectives met? You have to ask yourself, did you do a good job? Did your plans work? And what worked? What did not work in terms of your flow of practice, in terms of flow of each drill, in terms of your program master plan, in terms of your timeline, in terms of your breakdown and execution. So you're foolproofing, you're finding holes in what you did. Now, what if you found out that everything you did was okay? Then make it better. Everything can be made better. May your good be better and your better best. Diba? So, how can you make everything better? That is the purpose of your evaluation. It's not just to look for holes. It's not to give up you a pat on the back. No. It's about what can you do to make everything better. You cannot say that it's broken, so if it's not broken, don't fix it, right? No, but if it's not broken, still make it even better. So, in conclusion number one, it doesn't matter how much you know if your audience do not understand you. Try to remember that. It doesn't matter how much you know or how good you are as a coach because it will all depend if your players will understand, will be able to transfer, will you be able to execute, will it be memorable to your players? I think that's the essence of coaching. It's not how much you know, but it's how much you can transfer efficiently, effectively to your players. Doesn't matter what you know if your players, your audience, your team cannot understand you. Second, the quality of a coach is also seen in how he prepares for excellence and efficiency. It's very hard to see who is a good coach during games because good players can carry a bad coach. But you can see if a coach is really good or bad when you watch him closely in practices. And if it's even and even better if you can see him in his process during a process where he prepares for his practices, then you can see what kind of coach he really is. If he prepares for excellence and efficiency, I think that is a great mark of a good coach. If he doesn't, then he's just a coach, a so-so coach. That's for me in my book. I do hope you had fun, you found value in what I shared with you tonight. And I hope you can send your questions, continue to send your questions, your insights, your thoughts in the comment boxes below. And please do hit that like button. Please do share this video. Please do subscribe if ever you see this in YouTube. If follow if you see this in Facebook. Thank you and God bless. I hope you had a great time. As much as I'm having a great time doing this for you guys. Until then, live, play basketball. And let's all do it the Coach Potito Way.